Well, good afternoon again. I have about 10 minutes of introductory remarks here, but don't worry, I will cut them short and cut them out completely, and just say how delighted we are that the ambassador has such perseverance in joining us here for this afternoon. Again, to thank George and Rhonda Salem Family Foundation for hosting the event today. And I would like now to introduce Ambassador Mansour's very impressive bio. You have the details on the handout on your sheet, on your seat, so I won't go through them. But just let me highlight that he has been a very successful businessman. He's been a professor of political science, and he has represented the Palestinians at the UN in two important historical periods. First time in 1983 to 1994, and then again from 2005 until the present. He most graciously agreed to come down and join us from New York today. I will let him tell you about his very personal and profound experiences over this past year working on Palestine's membership as a state in the UN, because it's been quite a story. Ambassador?
I want to apologize for the delay, but it was not related to me. It's related to the weather, the airline, the airport, but the good news, I am here. I want also to thank the Institute for inviting me, for coming to Washington, D.C., and also to thank my good friend George Salem and his wife for being so gracious in hosting this event. George and we go back, very good friends. I think, in terms of blood, we're supposed to be related. I think that our parents, grandparents, are from the same lovely town of Ramallah. And I remember George, after graduating from law school and working with Jawad George, and we were working together in an organization for the Palestinian Americans known by the name of the Palestine Congress of North America. So this is how I met George, and the rest is history. I am very proud of George and his success. He's a very successful lawyer working for an outstanding firm in Washington, D.C. And even before that, as you all know, he was the most senior Palestinian American working in a U.S. administration, and George is very active on issues related to advancing the cause of justice for the Palestinian people. I spoke in this place before, and so I'm familiar with this room, and I see some familiar faces in Washington, D.C. I am happy to be here. My understanding that I'm supposed to be speaking about three subjects. Subject is related to reconciliation, national unity among the Palestinian people and their political system. Another subject is related to our effort for having our rightful place among the community of nations as a member state at the United Nations. And another subject is related to the political process, or known as the negotiation process. Now, of course, the three subjects are interconnected. One cannot separate one subject from the other one. But let me begin with our effort for becoming a member at the United Nations. And then I will fit the other two subjects with the discussion of our efforts for becoming a member of the United Nations. Someone might raise the issue and say, why did you come to the United Nations in September to submit your application? And somebody might react very quickly by saying that the peace process was at that standstill, so that the Palestinian leadership decided to come to the United Nations for trying to break the impasse of the peace process. Well, this answer is true in part, but it is not true completely. Because for us to be at the moment in September to try to become a member of the United Nations, it is not a decision that you make in the spur of the moment. It is a situation in which you have to work for several years before that. And I can submit to you that we have been working for that moment for several years. And then there were three components that were very important in allowing us to reach the moment that we reached in September. The first one, it is true that while we tried to negotiate with the Israeli side in good faith, but the different Israeli administrations were negotiating with us in one hand and creating illegal facts on the ground on the other hand, particularly in the field of settlements. And the settlement campaign reached a level in which, if we do not dig our heels in the ground and say that this illegal behavior has to stop so that we can have an atmosphere conducive not only to negotiation, but also to increasing the chances of success when we engage in meaningful negotiations. And the settlement campaign reached recently a level in terms of the number of settlers in excess of 600,000 and the number of settlements, to the point that if we do not stop this illegal behavior now, then we will not be able to negotiate a two-state solution. We will be crossing the line into something different, possibly a one-state solution. So therefore, we decided this time that if we truly want to negotiate a meaningful negotiation between us and the Israelis, we have to find a way where they have to stop settlement activities. So that's one component. But the other two components that led us to September, one was that if you want to become a member of the United Nations, you need to do several things. One, you need to pass through three stations at the United Nations. One, you need to submit an application to the Secretary General of the United Nations. And he has to make a determination that your application qualifies to be passed to the Security Council, for the Security Council to give a recommendation to the General Assembly. And that recommendation has to be in a form of a resolution from the General Assembly, in which a resolution in the Security Council, in which the Security Council would state in a resolution form to recommend the application of the State of Palestine for admission to the UN, to the General Assembly, and the third station would be the General Assembly. So if you want to do that, it means when you reach the General Assembly, you cannot prevail even if you have a recommendation without having the support of at least two-thirds majority of members at the United Nations. And because we realized this mechanism, we developed a plan, we called it a diplomatic plan, about 4 years ago, in which we started working consistently in receiving recognitions from states to the State of Palestine. And frankly, we started with countries in Central America and the Caribbean. And we concentrated initially on Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic. two states that are very close friends to the United States and to Israel, and nobody can accuse them of being ideological friends to the state of Palestine, such as Cuba, Nicaragua, and others. And the negotiation with these countries to recognize the state of Palestine was not an easy proposition. It took time, and it took an extensive amount of discussions over the legal grounds for the recognition of the state of Palestine. Costa Rica took the first step. And Costa Rica took this step, it wasn't an accident, simply because of several reasons. One of them, their foreign minister at that time, who used to be the representative of Costa Rica at the United Nations, is a brilliant legal mind. And he said that Costa Rica voted in 1947 with other states in that region for Resolution 181. And Resolution 181, in essence, called for a two-state solution. And then he said that since Costa Rica voted for a two-state solution in 1947, and one state came into reality in 1948, then he said, now we are on the eve of the independence of the other state, and today we have a global consensus on the two-state solution. Then therefore, he said, it makes a lot of sense for Costa Rica that contributed to the effort of the creation of the State of Israel in 1947 and 48 to complete the exercise by recognizing the independence of the State of Palestine. And in fact, for those of you who are interested in the legal articulation of this issue, if you go back to the records of the Security Council a few years ago, when Costa Rica was a member of the Security Council, and Bruno, when he became the Foreign Minister of Costa Rica, he gave a presentation in one of the open debates, and he challenged the members of the Security Council at that time to do the same thing that Costa Rica did in recognizing the State of Palestine. Of course, we went through a similar exercise with the Dominican Republic. And after a year and a half of negotiation with them, they also recognized the State of Palestine. These two countries opened the door for us. In South America, that few years after that, the lead was taken by Brazil, then followed by Argentina, Chile, and the rest of them. Our strategy was that we wanted to get South America and the Caribbean to recognize the State of Palestine and to complete the exercise that they were engaged in 1947 in the adoption of Resolution 181, meaning the two-state solution, the partition plan. And in addition to that, to invite them to play that role, to complete that role, we thought that if we succeed in having the majority of countries in that region to recognize the State of Palestine, that would create an atmosphere pressuring Western Europe, because Western Europe would be the last continent in which it is not, by and large, recognizing the State of Palestine. And in fact, this strategy worked, but the West European, instead of recognizing the State of Palestine, they went to a transitional period or intermediary step when France, Spain, and many others, about a dozen of them, selected to upgrade our status from a general delegation into a mission headed by an ambassador that would submit their credentials to the head of state. It's a step in the right direction, but it is not yet sufficient step. And thanks to Iceland, just in December, past December, that was the first West European country that fully recognized the State of Palestine. So this process, of course, created an atmosphere in which we reached the two-thirds majority on the eve of September of 2011, two-thirds majority of countries recognizing the State of Palestine. And in fact, today, we have 132 countries recognizing the state of Palestine. The last one was Thailand in January of this year, and the one before it was Iceland in December 2011. And let me ask in this connection, how many countries do we have today enjoying the fact that they have 132 countries recognizing them as a state? There is a small number of countries that belong to that club, and the state of Palestine is in that club. So the first component that we've been working on for many years reached the level of being right in the eve of September 2011. Another component was the building the institutions of the state of Palestine. The government of Prime Minister Salem you can say that it entered into a contract with the international community on the eve of August 2009. And that contract with the United States of America, with the European Union, with Japan, with the United Nations, with many other countries, the European Arab countries. And that contract, the essence of it, was the plan of the government of Palestine, in which the Prime Minister Salam Fayyad stipulated that he will be building the institutions of the state of Palestine within a period of 2 years to end occupation. Of course, that plan or that contract was funded by those countries, United States of America, European Union, and others. In fact, the United States of America funded that plan for 2 years in excess of $1 billion. We have completed what we said that we will do as a government of Palestine, and we've completed building the institutions by August, in fact before August 2011, and we received recognition